Despite the existential threats that Israel has so often faced, we should acknowledge that it's a liberal, pluralist democracy committed to working for a peaceful settlement with its neighbours. It's also a multi-ethnic, multi-faith democracy, and unlike many other countries in the Middle East, the rights of women and LGBT people are fully protected, matters which we should celebrate. Trade between our two countries is at a record high, and I'd urge the government to oppose the campaign for boycotts and divestment, which too often is used to try to delegitimise the State of Israel. In recent months, tragically, people in this city and this country have suffered directly at the hands of terrorists. And sadly, the last few years have seen many similar attacks in Israel. Palestinian terrorists have deployed techniques used in recent atrocities here and in other European countries as well. Since September 2015, there have been over 389 stabbings, shootings and car ramming incidents against Israeli citizens. A group with members in my Chipping Barnet constituency, the North London Friends of Israel, have expressed their serious concern to me that the UK media tends to report these attacks in a completely different way from their coverage of similar attacks taking place in the UK. This group points out that sometimes the word terrorism is completely absent, and reports can even lead with the killing of the terrorist, not the attack itself. But more importantly, the prospects for a peace settlement are harmed by those who persist in praising terrorists. The UK ambassador to the UN recently stated that at the root of recent violence lies a seemingly unending cycle of poisonous rhetoric and incitement, including the use of racist, anti-Semitic and hateful language. It's shocking that as many as 25 Palestinian schools are named after terrorists. Around 84 million is paid annually to convicted terrorists, with higher salaries, believe it or not, given to those who've killed more people. One can only imagine the hurt and outcry if this happened in relation to someone responsible for a terrorist attack in the UK. And it emerged yesterday that President Abbas has vowed never to stop these hateful payments, and that is something which I strongly condemn, and I hope others across this House will do too. Yes.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way, and she's making some incredibly powerful points. Does she agree with me that there will be no peace deal whilst children are being indoctrinated to hate the Jews and indeed encourage the destruction of the State of Israel? And as you rightly point out, schools being named after terrorists and sports competitions being named after terrorists, it's completely wrong.
He makes an entirely valid point. In June 2016, 13-year-old Israeli Hallel Yafa Ariel was murdered as she slept. The 17-year-old terrorist who killed her was subsequently praised on Fatah's official Facebook page. In a TV interview in September 2015, President Abbas declared, quote, "We welcome every drop of blood spilled in Jerusalem." His Fatah party have praised Dalal Maghrabi, describing her as, quote, "a bride of Palestine." She was responsible for killing 37 Israelis, including 12 children, in one of the most despicable attacks in Israel's history. It is also deeply worrying, as members have already pointed out, that the recent Al-Quds Day march in London saw Hezbollah flags flown in full view of the police. One of my constituents described it as grotesque and unacceptable that a pro-terrorist demonstration went ahead in London just such a short time after we had suffered at the hands of terrorists. And like others, I urge the government to do away with this artificial distinction between political and the military parts of Hezbollah and prescribe the whole organisation. The flag carried at that march may have had a small disclaimer on it, but I gather many of them included large pictures of Kalashnikovs. So in conclusion, Mr Deputy Speaker, a Palestinian state cannot be achieved through unilateral measures, only by face-to-face negotiations. So I welcome the refusal of the government to sign the one-sided communiqué in Paris in February. Every government in Israel's history has expressed a wish to live in peace with its neighbours. Successive Israeli governments have declared their support for establishing a Palestinian state through direct negotiations and agreement on mutual recognition, on borders and on security. Israel's current Prime Minister has repeatedly offered to restart negotiations. While there have been no official peace talks since 2014, I believe there are grounds for hope. Israel's relationship with a number of other countries has improved somewhat in the face of shared concern over matters such as the rise of Daesh and the hegemonic ambitions of Iran, which is now involved so heavily in so many conflicts around the Middle East. That shared concern appears to have opened up new channels of communication and cooperation and led to a concerted regional push to revive the peace process. Whilst this issue divides views in this House, I hope we can all agree on the importance of bringing the two sides together so they can restart negotiations and work together to secure a brighter, better future for both Israelis and Palestinians.